Adipurush released in theatres a few days ago, and I hate to admit it, but I had some serious concerns about the film from its trailers. But as they say, don't judge a film by its trailer, I decided not to prejudge and give the movie a chance, especially from a storytelling point of view. Everyone knew the VFX and visuals were going to be bad, but if the depth of the Ramayana is there, then it can cover for all that and more. So I went to see Adipurush with a relatively open mind. Hello everyone, I am Preet and welcome to Relevant Myths. Today we will discuss not the bad CGI, visuals and actions, but the story of Adipurush. How well was it adapted from the Ramayana, what it included, what it didn't, and where did it all go so wrong for it? So, let's begin. The movie starts with some bad 2D animation which runs over in just 1 to 2 minutes almost 30% of the entire story, which is the first two Kands or chapters of the Ramayana, which is the Bal Kand and the Ayodhya Kand. And the movie ends with Ravan's death, thus skipping another 15% of the latter story, which is the end of the Yuddha Kand and the entire Uttar Kand. So telling just 55% of the story in almost exactly 3 hours. So first of all, why was so much stuff skipped? If the reason is that the story of Ram is already known to everyone and doesn't need any explaining, then why make the movie at all? If people know everything about the story already, then why should anyone watch it for 3 hours? You are making a movie, so it should have something to say, some message to convey, some moral to give, right? What's there in this movie that hasn't been done before or is at least different from previous iterations? What was the purpose of making Adipurush? If what we see in the movie is anything to judge by, then it is a very short part of the whole story with absolutely no depth made with the lowest possible effort. Ramayana is a story of nuances and complexities. It may seem like a good and evil tale, but there's so much more than that in the story. Ravan is the villain of the story, but he is not an out and out bad person. He is a Brahmin, a Vedic scholar. He has immense knowledge and skills, but he uses them to prey over the weak instead of protecting them. While Hanuman, who is an actual monkey, is also a Vedic scholar. He also has immense knowledge and skills, but he uses them to protect Sugriv, Ram, and whoever is in need without expecting anything in return. This shows us the lesson that just having the knowledge is not enough, and the people whom we usually assume to be wise can actually be Ravan, and whom we assume to be stupid can actually be Hanuman. When Hanuman meets Ravan in the court of Lanka, it should have been the scene where the above mentioned philosophy would be openly visible. In most versions of Ramayana, Hanuman tells the duties of a king and a leader to Raman. He highlights Ravan's strengths and abilities, but also warns him that preying on the weak and deceiving them will lead to his own downfall in spite all of his great qualities. He also warns that because he is a king, he is responsible for entire Lanka, and so he will be subjecting his entire kingdom to downfall if it doesn't stop his ways. But Ravan, despite having the entire knowledge of the Vedas in his mind, isn't able to see past his arrogance, and instead of seeing an intelligent scholar, just sees a wild monkey in Hanuman and orders his tail to be set on fire. Here we can clearly see the contrast of the intelligent and wise monkey versus the arrogant and blind Brahmin king. But they didn't even hint at anything like this in the movie. And there are so many other examples of that happening throughout the film. So even when the movie shows some scenes from the epic which could be good, they become meaningless because of the baffling simplicity with which the script has been written. So the biggest question that comes from this is, did Om Raut actually want to make this? Was this his actual vision for the film? Because it's not that the movie failed to execute some interesting plans and that's why it is bad. There was not even a try to do anything unique or different. And this is the result after a 10-month delay where they supposedly improved the visuals and overall quality of the film. I don't want to imagine what the product would have looked like before. And all this is clear from the insulting dialogues, ridiculous costumes, and the mediocre music. You would have already seen many clips of some dialogues from the film on social media, like when Indrajit is setting Hanuman's tail on fire. Indrajit says, "Jali na, जिसकी जलती है," and Hanuman replies to that, "कपड़ा तेरे बाप का, तेल तेरे बाप का, आग भी तेरे बाप की, और जलेगी भी तेरे बाप की." Now, what is this? We discussed earlier how Hanuman is a Vedic scholar and one of the most knowledgeable person in the whole world. But with these dialogues, Hanuman is just rendered to being a bodybuilding comedic monkey with nothing more to him. Then there is one scene where Indrajit says this to Ram after he injures Lakshman. Indrajit says, "मेरे एक सपोले ने तुम्हारे शेष नाग को लंबा कर दिया, अभी तो पूरा पिटारा भरा पड़ा हुआ है, अब चुपचाप अपना तमाशा समेट और लंका से निकल, बहुत देख लिया तेरा बंदर नाच." We see the complete lack of effort from these dialogues. When Lakshman asks some intellectual questions to Hanuman to prove he is not a Rakshas in disguise, this is what was said in a paraphrased form. Lakshman asks, "Three parrots were crossing a lake, and when they crossed it, the child parrot said, 'Yay, we four have crossed the lake.' Why did the child parrot say four?" To which Hanuman answers, "Because it is a child. Children say anything." Then Lakshman, visibly impressed from the answer, asks Hanuman, "A man was awake for 15 days. How was he still fresh and strong?" To which Hanuman answers, "Because he slept at night. He was actually awake on the days. So of course he was awake for 15 days. I feel sorry for myself for even reading these dialogues. And the excuse of Adipurush being just a film also doesn't work here. In an ideal scenario, if you aren't confident that the format you have chosen to tell the story is the best one, then don't make the movie in that format. But leaving that aside also, there have been other movies made on Ramayana who have done a far better job of that. So we will take the most recent example of a major Ramayana movie being made before Adipurush, and that is 1992's Indo-Japan collaboration Ramayana: The Legend of Prince Ram. This is a 2-hour 15-minute anime film directed by Koichi Sasaki and Ram Mohan. Anyone from the 90s or early 2000s will have proper nostalgia for this film. Even while not being the most story-accurate version, it does a great job of capturing the soul of Ramayana. And that is enough, because Ramayana is not a fixed book like the Bible or the Quran. Ramayana, and all Indian texts for that matter, are fluid in nature. There are thousands of different versions all around the world. There is no one correct story. The story points are not important, the soul is. The messages, the morals, the philosophies that are being conveyed, they are the soul of the movie. Those should remain for it to be a good retelling. And 1992's Ramayana had that. Comparing it with Adipurush, having almost 45 minutes less than Adipurush, 1992's Ramayana still managed to tell so much more story in so much more depth. I think the slow-mo shots themselves in Adipurush just took half an hour. Director Om Raut said that he was inspired from the 1992 film for Adipurush, and he did put some elements of the movie into Adipurush. And what were those? Well, he put the bat-like Dementor creatures and the Ram Sita song after Sita gets kidnapped. But none of the deep intellectual part. In the 1992 film, they had to tell the story to a completely new audience unknown to the story in Japan, which Adipurush didn't have to and didn't because of it catering to a primarily Indian audience who is already aware of the original story. So it didn't have the same constraints as the 1992 film. Yet it did so much less than that. The entire reason and philosophy behind Ram killing Wali was completely changed so that they didn't have to make the characters grey and could continue with the black and white good and evil story. Same case with Sita's Agni Pariksha after the battle. This just continues to show how disastrous Adipurush was. If we even consider for a second that telling the story in a nuanced way wasn't even a goal of the makers and they just wanted to make a bad superhero movie from Ramayana, they couldn't do that also. The VFX are laughably bad for being the most expensive Indian film ever. The action and stunt design was also mediocre and even outright bad in many scenes. There were no cool shots or innovation in that department also. Set design and action scenes were borrowed from the Lord of the Rings and Marvel films. So, in addition to being intellectually bankrupt, it is also visual dead. And all this after a 10-month delay to fix these exact same things. Or maybe they didn't really do any of the changes. Because, as first observed by Tried and Refused Productions, the VFX look equally bad now also, just the lighting has been dimmed so that nobody can clearly see the bad VFX. All this again makes us think, why in the light was this movie even made then? And what I feel is that this was a minimum effort attempt to appease to the current right-wing Hindutva lobby and a blatant cash grab of the feelings crores of people have towards the Ramayana epic. But this also begs a bigger question, that should anyone be allowed to retell a story like Ramayana? Should there be some restrictions on it? Because in an interview, Om Raut had said that he just wanted to tell a story. That was his main goal. He wanted to tell the story of his imagination of the Ramayana, and he did that. And the result was, well, disastrous. So should there be some checks so that something this disastrous doesn't happen again? Because this movie is earning a lot of money. By the time I am recording this video, it has already earned 250 crores. And even the worst things that make money are sure to be repeated again. So you guys tell me, what are your thoughts about this? And did any of you actually like Adipurush? I'm curious to hear what you liked, if anyone did at all. Do tell me all in the comment section below. So that's it for today's video. Please like this video and share it to everyone you know. Subscribe to Relevant Myths and hit the bell icon so that you are up to date on all of my new videos. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.